So I'll call the meeting to order. We're just missing Mr. Ford from Fall City today. We'll open with the Lord's Prayer, and I'd like to dedicate it to Mr. Fred Waters. He passed away a little over a week ago, but he was the general manager here for 26 years before he retired in 1996. So I can imagine all the good things that happened here over his tenure leading the company. So I'd just like to dedicate the Lord's Prayer to him this morning. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. And I think Mr. Wagner just said he's looking to replicate that. So that's good. 26 years, you got in your
I don't know, that's a lot of, that's might be what, 70, almost 80?
Yeah, we'll talk. We're trying to build you up to thinking out that far. All right, citizens' comments, I don't believe we have any.
There was one gentleman that signed up, but I believe he was with Newsom Lighting, and he was just wanting to stop by and visit about putting lights on the building. We just got information, and I think he left.
Oh, okay. Christmas.
No, I think it was under Eve lights or some type.
Maybe they're really easy to change color for Christmas.
But we got his information, and we'll follow up.
Review and action on the minutes of the meeting held October 28, 2024. You want to review those and take any action?
I read it, but I'll make a motion to pass.
Motion by Mr. Witt, second by Ms. Madero. All those in favor? Review the Phelps Business Performance Year date for August 2024.
Mr. Parker, would you mind, please?
Morning, everybody. Morning. Go over the outage indices last month. You know, our SAIDI numbers, which is our minutes per customer, really around the same, 150, 152 there. You know, our safety, which is our interruptions per customer, is just about right around 0.5. And then our KD numbers, which is our minutes per interruptions, right around 100. So those numbers are staying. You know, the ones are moving up just a little bit as they normally will, but you know, the averages are coming down, especially that KD one there at the end. Next slide. Go ahead.
Just a quick comment, or actually two. I know we see on this through August. It's supposed to say through September. I pulled those numbers up late last week, early this week. The one reason why you see the little jump in SAIDI and safety is we did have some outages, a couple outages on the north side of the system on two of the big subdivisions. One of them was, I believe, lightning arrestor caused to trip the entire subdivision out. And the second one we never found, it was a switch, pole top switch that burned out, that caused that subdivision to go out. So that's the reason why it's got a little uptick there on the August to September adjustment. So just a couple items. If you notice, just an emphasis on the minutes per interruption, they're going down. That's a continuing look at how we're sectionalizing, getting fewer people out, as well as our linemen doing a better job, or not a better, a good job of finding the issue. When you sectionalize properly, it allows them to find the issue a lot quicker, so that it doesn't cause longer interruptions. So that number should continue to go down.
Yeah, those outages you were talking about on the north side, when one of them was 26,000 minutes and the other was like 29,000 minutes.
Yep.
That's the impact he's talking about. Our customer count inching ever closer to 18,000. I think we're going to get there sooner or later.
I'd be surprised if we're not there by the end of the year.
I think so.
Is there anything else you wanted to update on this month? Any questions from the board members? Yes, ma'am.
need to
Go
correct something. I second the motion for the minutes for last month. I wasn't here. I should not have been able to do that.
And I also need to go back because I need to ask a question on that.
Okay. Devin, thank you.
What?
Okay, we'll finish these updates and then we'll jump back up to that item.
Safety update, real quick. Next meeting is October 9th. One thing we'll emphasize today, there were no accidents in August. And in the asterisk below that, if you notice, there were no heat-related incidences this year. We had 6 last year, according to the documents we have located and found. Troy has done an excellent job ensuring that all of our guys are hydrated and no heat-related instances occur. So I'm proud of the guys for recognizing when they were getting to that threshold, and our emphasis to the linemen as well as their supervisors was stop work, take a break, get them in the shade. If they start getting overheated, don't keep going and push the envelope. The job can wait a little bit to make sure that their health is adequate. So kudos to the crew, kudos to Troy on all their efforts this summer to ensure nobody overheated. That 109, 110 degree day was pretty brutal. And the fact we got through it is pretty amazing. Personnel updates, got a lot of good updates on this front. We did get our second CSR hired. She's in training. The first CSR hire is actually doing work on her own. She does have questions. Of course, it takes time to get experience, but Eliza's doing a good job. She's following up and kind of shadowing one of our other CSRs that are seasoned. Promotions, no terminations. On promotions, Patricia Alcozer, she's now a utility billing specialist. Her spot that was freed up was taken by Eliza in the CSR group. She's doing a really good job. She is bouncing back and forth between billing and CSR to ensure that CSRs aren't overwhelmed during high volume phone call times until we get the new CSRs trained and up to date. Jeff is our new right-of-way crew foreman. Super proud to promote him. He's been here for many, many years, and we needed a right-of-way crew foreman, and he's been over right-of-way historically, so it was a great promotion for him. He was in our mechanics department, so that left an opening there. You'll see here in a minute. And very recently, Jose Munoz, the field construction coordinator, the other position that the board approved a couple of months ago. Jose was promoted. He was one of our dispatchers. He is going to, as with Patty, he's going to bounce back and forth between the FCC and the dispatching to not put dispatch in a bind until we find a replacement. So really, really proud of these folks for stepping up and applying for the jobs that we posted internally, and super happy to announce the promotions to all 3.
So he was one of the ones in the room back there.
In the dungeon, yes, sir. Open positions, we continue to search for journeyman linemen. In the executive section, one of the things that we'll be discussing will hopefully allow us to bring in more journeyman lineman applications so that we can fill the positions and get more journeymen here. Apprentice lineman, we've made one offer and it's pending background check. Has that been completed, Devin?
I haven't heard whether the background check's done. I know they offered the second apprentice last week.
Yeah, and then we had another gentleman that we had interviewed, that's correct. So we've got 2 apprentices that are, one has accepted and the other one has been offered. I think he may have accepted too.
I think the second one has accepted. We're just waiting for the background and the other stuff to clear.
So we should have our apprentice lineman positions filled in the very near future. We're not going to take anything down until we have them completed in-house. The CSR was filled, as I've already discussed, customer service rep. Our GIS technician, there was an offer made to a person, and that person accepted as of this week. Happy to announce that we've actually filled our GIS technician as well.
That's the drone guys?
That's the drone. They're not going to be doing drones. They're going to be doing more of the data manipulation, maneuvering, and taking the data that the drones get, taking the data that all the line designers get, and making sure the maps are updated, and various other aspects on the data side. They may at some point do the drone, but right now that's their target need.
Right now, they need to know what a pole is and what the crossbar is and
Well,
insulators and that stuff.
They'll learn that through the process, but really their side is just taking data and making sure it's correct.
Okay.
Fleet mechanic, we do have an interview. We have one applicant. I'm surprised we had only one, but we only have one applicant. I'd love to have more, but I believe that's being scheduled as we speak. CFO, pleased to announce we have 2 candidates that we have asked for interviews with. One will be this week and one will be next week. Hopefully by the next meeting, we may have identified our CFO. I know we're excited about both candidates. They both are acceptable from a resume standpoint. We're just going to see how they fit in and ask the questions we need to ask from a personal standpoint, as well as making sure they have the knowledge that they show on their resumes. Staff engineer, we're struggling on that front. We have not had any applicants, so we're going to go another step and see what we can do. Maybe reach out to universities, headhunters, stuff like that. Because right now I'm doing a lot of engineering work, and I need to be focused on other things as CEO. So as soon as we get that position filled, that'll relieve some of those duties off of me, so we can move forward.
You don't have any inwards of hullabaloo?
Not really, to be honest. A lot of there's only been 1 or 2 engineers I've hired from A&M. A lot of the really good power engineers. One of them came from Louisiana Tech. May reach out to the professor over there. I'll see if UTSA, try to get more local and see what we can get out of there. I'd rather have somebody with a little bit of experience, but if I have to take one fresh out of college, I can handle that too. I've done it before, so not a problem. And then the last one, the dispatcher, we're retitling that Associate Distribution Systems Operator. It really more describes what that person will be doing. Same thing with Lorenzo, who's our existing dispatcher. His title is going to probably change. We'll talk about that a little bit later, to Distribution Systems Operator instead of Associate. So we'll move forward with that. We've had 1 or 2 applicants internally already, and hope to set those the interviews up here in the next week or 2, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions on open positions? Moving forward, one of the things I want to emphasize is originally when I got here, we were about 52 to 53 strong. We're approaching 59 now. If you take that original 52, the amazing stat I realized was we promoted almost 20% of that original 52 when I started here. So I'm very proud to announce we continue to do what we preached, and that was promote internally and move people up and give them the chance to better themselves on their career paths. So that's a really good milestone and a good number to understand what we've been doing.
Thank you.
Financial update. Rogelio, I believe you're up, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
You can see the construction program. Not much has changed. We're still in progress on the positive trend. The only sites that we do see that have been increased just slightly would be the streetlights. As you can see, and at the bottom, we're we're over 29.71, and that's due to a quarterly jobs. We've added and replaced over 116 streetlights in the first quarter. So we're still working on quarter 2 and quarter 3 as we speak. And also, as you go down to the transportation, we did see an uptick on that. That is due to a new digger truck that was purchased to facilitate the line crew and assisting in installing and also the climbing fleet trucks that we have. And we also updated the mechanic truck, the fleet truck. We've updated that and removed the bed and upgraded it to a service truck to replace one of the foreman's service trucks that they currently have. All in all, we're still good. We're 35% for this month, our year-to-date, under budget. So everything's looking good and great.
I would like to comment on the meters real quick. That large negative number of 134,000. If you recall, when I first started here, we had 0 meters in stock. 0. We were having to dig and look for meters out in our old warehouse that were mothballed to try to get us where we needed to be. I've given our folks instructions to have 2 to 3 pallets of meters in stock at all times to ensure that doesn't happen again. So that number, while it's a large negative number, we're still within budget from an overall perspective. I just want to make sure the board understands why that number is so large. And it's because we normally would have been fine because we would have ordered 1, 2, maybe 3 pallets. But this year we had to order upwards of 5, 6 pallets just to get us caught up and then get us some in stock so that we're not in a bind in the future if something happens again.
But that's inventory.
It is.
It's no liosity, it's assets. It's gonna be sold.
It's still assets, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So
It's no big deal.
I know, I just want to make sure everybody
It's not
understands.
cash in the bank, it's inventory on the shelf.
Yes, sir. I just want to make sure everybody understands why that number is such a large negative. Yes, it's going to go right back to the customer.
Yeah,
So, absolutely.
be dollar in, dollar out.
Yes, sir. And then the other question I have for Helio, and I apologize, I meant to ask you this before the meeting. Does that 607,000, does that include the 500,000 the board approved on transportation equipment that was extra? I don't think it does. I think that 607 was the original budgeted amount, and I think we have another 500,000 on top of that because the board approved some additional vehicles that Mr. Parker wanted.
Yeah, I would have to look into that just to make sure and confirm that that it doesn't include the additional amounts.
So that's the other thing. We'll have an update to the board next month on that front, and I apologize for not having that answer for today, but I did recognize that it doesn't look like we have that 500,000. But again, we'll double check and get the board updated in the next financial update. Thank you, really.
Yes, sir. Move on to the operating budget. Everything seems to be going according to the month and the year to date, based on what's the work that's been being conducted during the year. As you can see, there was a distribution maintenance and the system maintenance side. We were over 14.97 for the month of August, and that is just due to having our guys going out there, maintaining the substations, the poles, the lines, especially with this heat wave that we had in August. That's attributed to that, and then everything else, like I said, certain expenses are anticipated. They were not anticipated in certain areas. Community support, going out and assisting the community, hanging up banners, or changing the street light, or anything, something like that to that nature for the community. But overall, we're looking great. For year-to-date August, we're at 2.7, which we had an estimated of 3.1 for up-to-date As you can see, the operating budget chart, you can see as we move from transmission up to storeroom, we're in line. And then you see the difference under budgets and the customer-related expenses and general administrative. And our operations revenue for the month of August, you will see that our residentials provided a revenue of 1 million. The residential rural, which is one of our biggest ones, 2.4 million. Commercial and industrials that follow along, and then street lighting, 5,000.
If you recall, we were just shy of 5 million last update, 4.8, 4.9. And then I think I told the board I expected it to be a little bit higher because of the meters spinning during that heat wave. So those numbers do come up, as you see, a little bit higher than what they were last time. So as long as the meters are spinning, we're in good shape.
What do you see on the commercial side? I look for it to grow.
Oh, absolutely.
Hearing things.
Absolutely. You'll see in the load forecast that I'm doing, if some of the loads that I see that I've been working with come to fruition, we will see an uptick in the commercial and industrial, especially the industrial side.
You think the commercial will catch up with the residential?
Depends on the loads, but it very well could, yes, sir. I don't know about rural. If Mission Rail comes to fruition, it could compete or well exceed the residential.
This is stuff right here in Floresville, they could come to.
It could.
I don't know, I don't think I don't think city sales will, on either the residential or the commercial will ever catch up with the rural, because most of our cities don't have the wherewithal and how to expand their city limits like the large cities do,
Yes, sir.
to take in enough geographical area to encapsulate the area that these large subdivisions are wanting to grab,
Yes, sir.
and these areas where these industrial complexes are wanting to set down at.
I
They
could
just
see,
can't do it.
the only thing I could see, Mr. Aiken, is maybe the city of Floresville continues to expand their city limits. They just annexed the 500 homes at Eagles Nest, so they're adding that into their city footprint. And then if you recall on the map from last week, or last month, there's 2,500 homes just beyond that. And they can annex up to, I believe it's a mile outside their ETJ, or outside their city limits. So,
Yeah, but they haven't gotten past the hurdle of providing sewer systems to all that.
agreed.
You know, it's one thing providing water and electricity, but when you start saying the city is going to provide a septic system to a 2,500 home system 5 miles outside of town, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
See, the mayor's shaking her head. There's no way the city can do that.
We won't do.
So they can't annex something that they can't provide that system to.
Completely agree.
One commercial can overcome a lot of this. And there's a lot of commercial people looking from San Antonio to Floresville. Down to the area.
I think the only way that the mayor and her council can do that, it would be if the new subdivision built per y'all's requirements, a new sewer system.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the only way that can happen. They're so expensive these days.
They are.
So, no, from a residential standpoint, Mr. Aiken, you're right. I thought the question was dealing towards will industrial catch up to some of the residential. And I think the industrial could easily catch up, whether rural or city, could easily catch up to the residential. To answer your question directly,
I
Mr.
mean, one of
West.
them can do, one good commercial can overcome.
We're working with the gentleman from Spain right now that is supposed to be coming to the system, so. Any other questions on that? Thank you all for the discussion. Rogelio, thank you.
So, yeah.
All right, let me, is that it for review of business?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Let's jump back up to item D, review and action on the minutes of the meeting held August 28th. Carol wants to withdraw her second since she was absent. So do I still have a motion from Mr. West? And you know, I'm sorry, you
Can I
have a
have a
question?
question before? Not that, I don't know if it matters, but it might matter, because on item I, when I made the motion and Mr. Eckman seconded, I think, we voted on that, and it doesn't show it on here. Is that they were audited?
Which one?
It would be item
Oh,
I,
I see. If somebody will motion with the correction.
Oh, I see.
with the correction of, we voted on it and it passed.
Yeah, with that correction, if you'll
It has to
do a
be
motion
And
with that
also-
change, that'll be fine.
Okay, and also, over here where it says item G, that the workshop is going to start at 1 PM. I thought it was going to start, no, it's going to start at 12. Does that matter?
No, it starts at 1. I was just inviting the board to lunch here when we had the discussion. So
Okay.
the actual workshop will start at 1. If you can't make the luncheon, just be here by 1 o'clock, ma'am.
Okay, so,
So Chairman, if you're okay with that, I would say with that change.
Yeah, Mr. West, you want to add your motion?
To change that?
To add,
Fine, it was add what you need to change it.
okay, that motion, that addition is to add the vote for section 1, item I, for the real property discussed in the closed session. And that's it, right? Okay, thank you for catching that. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Wetz, for second,
I'll second.
seconded by Mayor Cantu. All those in favor? 4, then you can abstain. And 1 abstain for absence. Okay, perfect. Thank you for catching that. All right, we'll jump back to item F, update on the projects.
Quick update on the substation site purchase. We do have a contract in place. We have 90 days from that date of contract, which was, it's December 14th, I believe, is the close date on that contract for us to close on that property. We're moving quickly, as you can imagine, to make sure that the site is adequate for a substation, which we couldn't do prior to the contract. So we left a 90-day window in there for us to be able to do our due diligence. The survey is complete. We've done a topo. The site's fairly flat, just as I expected. There's only about a 5-foot drop off from one corner to the other.
Wow.
And that is, I mean, that's 5 acres. So very, 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 very nice to find a spot like that for substation work. Pretty much, yes, sir. So we've got a historical review that we're working on through our engineering firm. They have an environmental and historical review they can do internally. That is in progress. We are working to get soil bore estimates so that we can, and bids, so that we can get that rolling and get that completed, make sure there are no issues, subgrade. We are working with the county to make sure that the splitting of the original acreage can be done without any issues from the county. There's some permissions we have to get to ensure that can be done. And then on the TxDOT side, I still need to contact the gentleman next door and make sure our ingress egress plan can be done, or if we need to modify it to accommodate any requests from TxDOT. Once we get through all of that, we'll be good to go as long as everything comes back in the positive. So, really, really moving fast on that.
So we get to move in on the property thinking 60 days?
I'm hoping mid to late December it's ours and we can move forward with design and
Start the groundwork.
start groundwork in Q1 next year is my hope.
Site work may start like first of the year.
I'm thinking probably into Q1. We still, once we get the site, we'll need to do the civil design work. And we're going to limit that civil design work to only what we need, not the future expansion of potentially 4 transformers. We're only gonna do it for the 2 transformers, which we're only gonna put 1 in initially, but we'll have a bay set up. If you remember on the designs, what I've shown you, we'll have a bay set up for a future second that can be used for a mobile sub to get it in there very quickly, in the event we need it. So yeah, we're trying to move fast, and my target is hopefully to get this thing built by not this winter, but the following winter, and be ready for any winter activities that might happen. And we're fine this year. We're going to be able to utilize that 40 MVA transformer that we have sitting in Floresville. We're working on a temporary tie-in so that in the event our loads exceed what the existing 12 in that adjacent bay can handle, we can move all the load over to that one. So, yes, ma'am.
So you're saying you're gonna, like, we can put 2 transformers in there, but we're looking at 4?
So when I do substation planning, I don't look at just what we need.
Right now.
I look at what we need to plan on in the future. Now, on our construction and our costs, the costs don't include site work to build out 4 transformers. The site work just includes costs to do the control house and 2 transformers and ingress, egress, and ways to move around those facilities inside that fence, so that we're not squished inside there like we are kind of in the Floresville station. It's very tight in there. So we're going to leave ourselves some space to be able to traverse around the station. I've always had that theory to ensure that our linemen are safe and we can get mobile substations in and out very quickly in the event we need to borrow CPS's unit again. Yeah, I mean, we're going to plan on 4 transformers there, but we're only going to put 1 in initially, and it's just that future planning that I'm trying to make sure the board understands I'm doing. It's not, again, not trying to hide anything. I want to make sure y'all know where my thoughts are.
There may not be 4 transformers there until 2050.
Correct.
But
Correct.
we'll have the room.
But we will have the room, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? All right. It's a little small, but I wanted to describe to y'all what I'm doing here. This is just kind of a first shot at load forecasting based on our winter numbers that we just had. I believe we hit 100, summer numbers, sorry. 101 megawatts, which I believe was the highest summer total we've had in the numbers that I've seen. That's a good thing. That just means meters are spinning, right? So what I did is I brought in and basically gave ourselves some growth rates. And I use those growth rates based on depending on the area, how quickly we want to grow those loads to reflect how new subdivisions are coming in or not coming in. For example, in Poe, we're not going to see, but maybe at the most, about a 3% growth rate as we go into the future. That'll probably change over time. It just depends on how developers want to go south of Floresville, right? But on Floresville T1, going back up, Eagle Creek, I'm looking at about a 5% increase. Where I'm really pushing it is Floresville T4, as well as the new, what I'm calling Bentwood right now. We'll make sure that's what we call it, but I'm calling it Bentwood right now. The new substation. When we bring it in, I'm going to be transferring about 12 megawatts from Eagle Creek and Floresville to that station. And what that does is it relieves the load off of those 2 stations, right? So I'm also looking at about a 10% growth rate because Bentwood's going to cover pretty much all of the large subdivisions that are coming in. So I'm pushing that growth rate a lot higher in that area. So I just want to make sure you understand how I'm doing this. I was talking to a couple of the board members before the meeting, and it's really interesting to see that, when Floresville T4 gets to a certain spot, you notice how I drop it. what I'm doing here is I'm transferring that load over to a new post station. I'm trying to relieve that load. This is 21 and a half megawatts. This transformer is rated at 21. I've got to relieve some of that load to allow for the growth rate that we're expecting inside Floresville as well. So if I continue to push that 8% along, this number is going to get well above that base rating and approach the max rating of it very quickly, okay? For Poth, I'm also bringing in some of Fall City. You'll see a slight reduction in Fall City right here, same time frame. It's just, basically it's a numbers game. We're taking load off of an overloaded transformer or a potentially overloaded transformer before it gets overloaded and putting it to a new transformer to offset that load. Again, I'm not a big fan of continuing to add at Floresville. I think y'all know that. I've emphasized that since I educated myself on this system. So I just want to make sure we're looking at these new stations, and this tells me when I need to build those, okay? And that's based on current load growth patterns. Now, as you can see, I've only got 3 stations of the 5 additional ones that I told y'all about. That's all I think we need, 1 transformer in each for this 5-year horizon. You know, we still got one that's sitting here, but I can maneuver some of that load without building another one. I'm trying to look at it from a financial standpoint as well, not just load. So as long as we have enough transformation, these are our total capacities, then we should be fine. This is just an educational thing for you. It's not final. I'm not asking for a vote today. I just want to make sure you understand what I'm doing in the background to try to make sure that we are moving forward in the most efficient and cost-effective way that we can, and still serve the load efficiently and reliably. Any questions on that?
If we go along with this plan and things go like we are projecting, we are preventing having brownouts.
Well, in all honesty, yes. But we never want to bring the system to that level. This is why I'm trying to educate the board on what we do as engineers in the background to ensure that we don't get to that point where we're at the peak of a station's capacity and we can't transfer that load to another station. We don't want to get to that point because, yes, you're right, that causes, we have to do manual load shed at that point because just like in ERCOT, we have manual load shed in ERCOT. If ERCOT can't serve the load, they're going to tell us to shut load off. Our system, if we don't develop it, just like I'm showing you, then we have to do the same thing, but on a smaller scale.
Well, if we get to the point where the state tells us you got to shut something down, we can't help that. But if we don't plan to where we can keep from shutting something down, that's our problem.
That's correct.
And that's what we're working on here.
Now, I'll say this. What I'm showing here is only looking at base loading of each transformer. We can go, there's several stages on a transformer's capacity, but I like to leave those other stages because we have major events. Uri, prime example. We have major events that are well beyond what you can forecast. There's no way to forecast that, okay? So we have to leave capacity on these stations, and I've always used stage 1 of a transformer's capacity as that spot where we start planning and we find a solution to take load off of it. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, any other questions? Mayor?
Yes, I'm sorry because my phone rang, I forgot to turn it off. But I don't know if you mentioned it while I interrupted everything. Mission T1, what is?
That's Mission Rail. If you recall, If you were at last month's meeting, up at the top left of that drawing I showed you with the, with all the new stations, that's just solely an industrial station that'll serve just Mission Rail.
Okay.
And they'll be paying for that.
And that is the intent, yes, sir. I'm trying to figure out a way to get it built without anybody there so that we can bring people in. But in the long run, yes, to answer your question, that is solely for them. The intent would be to build it into their contract to where they pay for it, or incentivize them somehow. Everything from that nature would go through this board, I can promise you that. Okay? Any other questions on load forecasting? All right, Chairman, if I can go on, if it's all right. We have one project that Mr. Parker and his team are working on kicking off construction. We don't have a set date yet, but I just want to bring to the board's attention for voltage support and system reliability as part of the previous 5-year plan that we had Synergy do for us. This was before my time, of course. We had a project to reconductor from 2nd Street and 8th Street, that intersection, all the way to Loop 181 and Highway 181 on the south side. That particular line is small. I believe it might even be portions of it is copper.
It is.
And so we're going to upgrade that to 795 AAC, as that serves a lot of load towards that direction. It'll help in voltage support, and it'll help in system reliability. The old copper lines become very brittle over time, so we are working on a plan to replace all of our copper. There's some in Poe, there's some in Falls City. It's scattered everywhere, and truly you need to replace that because it literally gets very brittle. Some of those probably put up in the 60s, maybe the 70s. So they've been up for a number of years. And this is just one project out of many that we
Can
will
I
be-
have it?
We plan on trying to put some in our kitty here at Phelps. Thanks for the offer, though. I mean,
I'll be glad to come take it.
I'm sure. You know, a lot of times they're really pitted. They've actually worn themselves down. They're not the original number 6 or number 4 that they were when we put them up. So, you know, it's not as much copper out there, and maybe, I don't know, maybe laying on the ground somewhere, little flakes. But anyway, just making sure the board's aware of this project. If y'all get questions from our customers or from the public, y'all know what's going on.
When is this starting? And
We don't have a timeline yet. As soon as we do, we will post on social media so that everybody knows, and then we'll probably get with our CSRs and try to call all the customers up and down there just so they know we have a contract crew or an internal crew going down there to do this work. And more than likely, it's going to be a contract crew. We just don't have the bandwidth with our personal crews here at Phelps.
what does this entail? Is it like short outages just to?
Honestly, there should be no outages. If all happens correctly, it shouldn't have any outages. But we know how construction works. We know trees. We know the line is basically going to be spread out a little bit wider than what it is today. So we're going to utilize more of our right of way, which gets it closer to the trees. There's multiple things that can cause potential outages. Plus, while they're working on it, we put it on what's called one-shot. What one-shot does, if you remember, I told y'all, we try to hold temporary outage or temporary faults to close them back in. So if a squirrel gets on the line, it'll open up and then close right back in, right? And try to hold it, make sure the fault's cleared. It may do that a couple of times, but it may stay in. Well, when we put it on one-shot during construction activity, if it opens up, it's not going back in. And that is a protection for our linemen, for our contractors. Because if they accidentally or inadvertently get tied into the line, you don't want to close back in on them. So we put it on one shot as a safety precaution. Devin, do you want to add anything to that?
You know, the only the only thing I can see, there might be, like when we do the pole change outs, there could be times when we take some short outages on, because some of those poles will be changed out on that job.
Yep.
And that's, depending on when they're changing the pole, they will have to disconnect service. But it'll be short time frames, and they'll be scheduled with that particular customer.
Very, very isolated.
Yes.
Whenever you do that line, you're gonna clean the right of way and replace anything on that line that needs to be replaced. So that once y'all do the new wire and everything, that line shouldn't have to be jacked with for a number of years.
Shouldn't be.
That's correct.
It's going to 795, we shouldn't have to touch it for a long time unless we go with a double circuit. I think we'll get there.
Correct. Again, depends on load growth, depends on how Floresville grows. Obviously, Floresville is growing more north and west and not south and east. So, you know, this is going to help the customers that are down there, especially from a voltage drop standpoint. But, you know, there's a lot of factors that will dictate how long this conductor will last. But the intent would probably be 20 to 25 years, if not longer. Thank you, Deb. Any other questions?
On that second, it starts at Second and A. How about, if you go the other way? Is that okay? Is that wiring okay?
Yes.
I would have to check, ma'am, I'm not 100% sure if it's, I'm not sure what that is going that direction.
It would go to, Spanish.
I haven't been here long enough to have that in-depth system knowledge off the top of my head. I
Because I see,
apologize.
how long has it, when did they agree to this from A to,
so I think the short answer to your question is yes, the conductor is adequate. This project was done in 22. It was a 5-year work plan that was done in 22. We will be reviewing that here this coming year to make sure that all the new subdivisions and the subdivisions that they showed on that particular study, they've kind of either dissipated or moved to other locations. So we need to make sure that the study is updated with the current activity that we see. And also the current loads that we're seeing in the current load forecast that I'm working on that I just showed you. The conductor going that way, I believe, is 4-aught, and that's adequate for as far as I can see. It serves mainly that countryside out west of town, and it is adequate for what we have. There's actually a recloser right there at that tap going northwest. There's a recloser that will actually isolate all of that in the event something happens out in the fields in the west side of town. So, and the only reason I know that is I had to work an outage with our folks one night, and I got to know it very closely. Again, I want to say it's 4-aught conductor. It may be 795, but I want to say it's 4-aught. And that's adequate for what we have out there for load-wise.
thank you.
Any other questions on that? Okay, thank you. Board policy review. I asked the board if they would review 3 policies, role, authorities, and accountabilities of the board members, board member conduct, and board member officer roles, accountabilities, and succession. I leave the floor to any questions that anybody has on those policies. Those are, to my knowledge, there are no changes required. I will say the chairman and I had a brief discussion before the meeting. I am the secretary treasurer. We never moved that to Jessica. And so we do not need to make any changes on that front. I'm still that person. We will hold off on any movement of secretary or treasurer to the new CFO until we're comfortable that that's the right way to go. So unless the board has any issues with that, we're just going to leave it as it is today. Yes, ma'am.
I did ask Brenda if she would make a copy of these for me.
Sure.
So, then I would ask
We'll put a-
printer didn't want to work.
We
And
will
I like
put,
to have everything organized just in case I lose it in the computer.
I know you like the printed version. Brenda, if you could make a full
Yeah.
booklet of board policies for
Just
her,
those
please.
three.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on board policy?
G17, is that where they said, we had a question or problem, contact the CEO or chair or the legal? So the legal deal is that somebody outside of here?
That would probably be Rodrigo.
Huh?
That would probably be Rodrigo, but initially I would think it would go through the chairman for y'all.
Yeah, and what if we don't even talk to Rodrigo? We're not, I'm not a Rodrigo fan, so.
I think that would be to start with us two first, because we don't have anyone else on the retainer or anything to go outside of them immediately.
That's the only problem I have, okay?
If we wanted any change with that, we just need to add a second attorney on retainer, I assume.
Rodrigo,
Or we have a different firm.
I understand, but that's the problem that I have.
But from that policy standpoint, I think you're not saying there's an issue with the policy specifically, but if our setup from that.
The question is, we're not locked into just that one law firm.
No, it doesn't say that in there.
Yeah.
But we only have one currently, so that's just something we'll have to discuss if we want to have more.
So if I don't get it with you or him, and I want a law firm, that's when I need to go somewhere else.
No, we need to have a second.
But that's when I should be able to resolve what we ought to. But if I can't, that's when I should go to the law firm. And so from that thing, or how are we gonna get two law firms?
You would just have a second one.
I said, how are we gonna get that? How are we gonna get to that point?
I think if you look
And we
into, yeah, you did need to be an action item to engage in a retainer with a firm that he researches and finds and has an interview with and talks to, you know.
So can we create a process of that?
that's really up to the board. I'd be happy to look into that for y'all if y'all want a independent counsel that has nothing to do with what we do today, and you're not getting the answers from the chairman or myself that you need as a trustee. We should be able to find somebody that we can put on retainer.
I don't think I'll have trouble with that, but that's my question is, if I do have trouble with it, I won't be locked into this same old law firm that's here that's.
To me, it's a valid question.
Huh?
To me, it's a valid question, Mr. Wetz. It goes along the lines of employees here. If they come to me and I don't resolve an issue, I expect them to come to the board and talk to the board about it to get a resolution. But my job as CEO is to resolve that issue. As a trustee, if you do not get an issue resolved by the chairman or the CEO, I would expect you need somewhere to go to get that resolved. And so,
Yeah, which we have that, but he's saying, can we look into having
And I will, if the instructions I'm hearing today,
Yeah.
I will look into another firm. I will find another firm that we have just for the board of trustees in the event it's needed.
We're not saying it will ever come up. We're just, he and I are on the same page. We're just asking the question is, does that particular G.1.7 lock us into where we can't ask you to get us an attorney's opinion other than Rodrigo's opinion?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Do you agree?
I mean, from my standpoint, it's Rodrigo works for Phelps, and he's on Phelps' side. So if I have a problem that is outside the limits of Phelps, he wouldn't be the guy I want to talk to.
We'll get clarification, but I'm pretty sure he represents the board.
I understand, but I mean, okay,
But
I know you probably think it's a conflict of interest.
for me, it would be,
Yes.
I would think so. I mean, if you work for the board, okay, and I haven't seen that part. I haven't seen a good part of that part. Anyway, that's my question.
I'll do some investigating for this discussion and report back to y'all either next month or the month after. Let's just target December or January if we don't have a December meeting. Let's target January. I'll get back to you, and I know you're going to be out by that point, but I'm thinking about October.
Yeah.
We're going to push till January.
Yeah, then we don't have to do it. No, October is budget. I'm going to focus on budget in the October board meeting.
Right.
And November, let's target November initially.
Yeah, because November's gonna be our last meeting.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Let's target
We
November.
don't have one in December.
We haven't, we could. But the last meeting or two, we talked about having to have it.
We'll make that decision in November. But,
So any other questions on the policy, those three policies? Okay, I don't think we're gonna take action, right? There's only action if we want to change something.
I will do some investigating for this discussion.
Okay, next item, budget discussion update.
Wanted to just give y'all an idea of where we were. Proposed salaries are complete. We will talk more in depth during personnel discussions and executive session. Proposed O&M is nearing completion. Capital projects are in progress. I believe executive staff is pretty close to getting the capital requests done. We will start staff meetings next week. I haven't set them up yet with them, but we'll get those set up so we can go over it. Per discussions, last board meeting with Mr. Wetz's comments, I will look at individual trustee meetings the week of October 14th, which is the week before the work session. The intent on that would be to get y'all up to speed on all of the budget items in detail, so that when we get to the work session, we can talk about specifics of how y'all want to, if y'all want to make any changes after those sessions, we can talk about that. And then, of course, we'll, in the October board meeting, by that time, everybody should be on board, and hopefully it's just a formality to approve the budget based on all the discussions that we have here over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So any concerns or issues on those topics?
So you're gonna let us know when the individual trustee meeting is?
I will get those started I'll start setting those up tomorrow and Friday with each individual board member. I'm thinking couple hours with each board member should suffice, but I'll leave like a 3-hour window in my schedule for it just in case. Okay? What's that? Do we need 4 hours for you're an accountant, you might want that.
All right, any other questions on budget discussion? Good. All right, we do have an executive session, a couple items. So at any time during the board meeting, pursuant to provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, the board may meet in executive session for personnel under Section 551.074 and deliberations and other authorized action on real property, Section 551.072. So we will have a vote to executive session, and then if anyone stays, we will call you back in. Do I have that motion? Motion from Mr. Wetz.
Second.
Second from the mayor. All those in favor? It's unanimous. We are in executive session at 9:29.